The following is a local resident producers program. The program content is the sole responsibility of the producer and does not necessarily reflect the views or policies of Oshkosh Media, the City of Oshkosh, or Time Warner Cable.
Hey everybody, welcome to Eye on Oshkosh. I'm your host, Cheryl Hentz, and I'm wearing as close as I could get to purple today in honor of Prince, who passed away earlier today. It's not quite purple, but it's the closest I could get. We're taping this on the date of his death, April 21st, 2016. Very, very sad loss for the world of music, but I do have a purple pen, so so that counts. Anyway, we are talking tonight about environmental issues and a couple of different things going on at the University of Wisconsin-Oshkosh. One, as we are taping this, it will be on the 23rd of April. However, by the time this starts airing on cable access TV, the event will be over. But if you're watching this on YouTube, as I hope you are, the event will be coming up on Saturday, 2 days from now, Saturday, the 23rd of April. So here to tell us all about this is, we have to my left, Dr. Laura Hartman. She is an assistant professor of environmental studies at UWO, and she's faculty advisor for the campus's Student Environmental Action Coalition. What's the acronym? SEEK?
SEEK.
All right, SEEK. And also joining us to my right is Cassandra Fowler. She's a senior environmental studies major. Yes. Welcome to both of you. This is the first time for both of you being here. Hopefully it will not be your last. Hopefully I won't run you off or scare you off. We also have a website that I'm hoping that we can get put up here sometime during the show. It is going to be, and you at home can write this down, www.uwosh.edu/go/Earth Week. So uwosh.edu/go/Earth Week. All right. So the event coming up is, and it's timed beautifully because it's closing out Earth Week. Mm-hmm. Was that by design?
Very much.
Okay, yes. I thought so. So it's a sustainability-themed school called Free School. So what is Free School? Tell us.
There are many free schools in many communities around the globe. It's a movement, and the idea behind the free school is that we can all be teachers and we can all be learners. In a community kind of setting, we can learn from one another. There's a special emphasis on teaching and learning the skills and the knowledge that we need in order to make the world a better place. And the philosophy says that that kind of knowledge and those skills should be freely available to people who want to learn, and that when we come together as teachers and as learners, we can create a community of learning and all benefit from that.
Mm-hmm. So what kinds of things, first of all, is this the first time this is being done at UWO?
Mm-hmm. Yes,
okay.
It is.
Whose idea was it? Was it yours?
Yes, but it happened, it just so happened that a couple of the organizers from the Student Environmental Action Coalition, from SEEK, have a great deal of enthusiasm and a great deal of ambition and a can-do attitude. So I was throwing out many different ideas. and they latched on that one and said, let's do that. We can do that. And I've been truly astounded by how much work the students have put into this. it's really going to be an amazing event because they have been so organized and so dedicated to pulling it off.
Can viewers find out about this on Facebook as well?
Yes.
Okay.
If you go to facebook.com/UWO Free School, all one word, that's our Facebook website.
Okay, all right. And you know, I mean, even if you happen to be seeing this after the event is over, I would still invite you to check things out because, or just check out free schools in general, because there's a lot of good information out there that you can probably garner and profit from. So just because the event might be over, don't let that prohibit you from learning and exploring free schools and the concept thereof. So what kinds of things, I found out that, well, you go to my church, but I found out that one of our church members who's a dentist is going to be, you know, teaching at this thing. So tell us what kinds of things people can learn at this free school. Because it's not just like, oh, I can go to UW-Oshkosh for free, I want a philosophy degree. No. It's not what this is about. But it is a very worthwhile project. It's all about sustainable things, right?
Yes, and Dr. Hallquist, the dentist, is going to be teaching about solar ovens. When I first met him at our church, he came up to me and said, "I make solar cookers in my basement." And I said, "You do?" And the students had just started hatching this idea, and I said, "I think I have a great place for you to teach people about that. Would you be interested?" And he was actually the first person we got to sign up to teach a class at the free school. He's teaching a class about solar ovens, about who uses them, how to make them, different varieties of solar ovens, what are their parameters, what can you actually cook with them. We're hoping for sun on Saturday because Dr. Hallquist is going to, if weather permitting, he's going to set up some solar ovens and do some actual cooking demonstrations.
Oh, that would be cool.
Yeah, so
that would be really cool.
That's one of many different kinds of workshops that we have. Some of them are more hands-on, so there's going to be a workshop about sewing and mending. There's going to be workshops about container gardening, about various kinds of skill-based classes, but then there's others that will be more about ideas, about concepts. We've got one of our professors, Dr. Paul Van Auken, is going to teach about what is a co-op, to help people get informed about what that is and how it functions. So, and we will have several that are exercise-type classes. There will be yoga and Tai Chi and Taekwondo, and Cassandra is teaching a class for the kids. We have special activities for kids throughout the day.
Okay, all right. Now, I want to hear about that, but I have a question. If I'm sitting at home watching this, whether on my television or my computer, and I hear someone say, we're going to have someone teaching about sewing and mending, my first thought is, wait, how does that tie in? Excuse me, how does that tie in with the environment? How does that tie in with the environment?
Sure. So solar ovens is actually kind of similar. All of these classes have something to do with either health, community well-being, or sustainability, understood broadly. Sewing and mending is a helpful skill because it helps your clothing last longer. The longer your clothing lasts, the less you have to buy more clothing. The less you have to buy more clothing, the less we're causing damage to the environment through the clothing industry.
Ah, okay. So it's you're trailing this. Okay, I got it.
Yeah, so it's one dimension of what we sometimes call green consumption, ways of altering our consumption patterns so that they're less harmful to the environment.
Okay, very good. So, Cassandra, what kind of class are you going to be teaching?
I will actually be teaching children how to grow mushrooms. And I'll be doing them in containers and having them I'll be breaking down cardboard with oyster mushrooms. So it'll give the kids a chance to play with some mushroom spawn and get dirty.
You know, it's funny that you should mention mushrooms because with the little bit of rain that we've got and the green yards, or the yards becoming green now, no pun intended, I have so many mushrooms in my yard. You know, and so we had to go through and get rid of them all so that the dogs don't get into them and so forth. But I mean, it's crazy. They're just growing on their own. Yeah. What makes them just grow on their own like that?
Well, mushrooms love the humidity that we've been having, and they love moisture. So all this rain and humidity is really making them pop up, and especially when we're not having extremely sunny days. the sun will actually burn them out. But since we've had a lot of cloud cover, it's really helping them sprout up and really procreate.
Yeah, they're procreating all right. They're everywhere. They're everywhere. We need mushroom population control in my yard, and I'm sure a number of other yards around town too. So how long, like for example, how long will your class last, teaching them how to grow mushrooms or whatever?
All of the sessions will actually last about an hour.
Okay, all of them, about an hour. And where is this going to be held?
In Sage Hall.
Sage Hall. Okay, now for someone who doesn't know where Sage Hall is, where is that in relation to the rest of the campus?
It is on High Street.
Okay. So whereabouts on High? If someone's coming down Wisconsin, for example, and they turn onto High,
Well, actually, it's a
one-way
one-way.
yeah, it's
so you
one
can't
way.
turn onto-
That's right. They're gonna. That's why I kind of paused. I thought, wait, that doesn't work. So if there is, so they'll have to either come down High from somewhere on the other side, way clear on the other side of the campus, like from Congress or something like that, or they'll have to go down Algoma and come around. So whereabouts on High is it?
I believe the exact address is 742 High Street.
Yeah, that's right.
And-
742 High. Okay.
And they could actually take a left off of Wisconsin onto Pearl, and that would actually bring them back behind Sage, and they could pull right into the parking lot there.
Okay, so there's a parking. That was one of my other questions. Is where did people park? Because parking traditionally on campus is pretty sparse. You know, it's tough to find a place to park sometimes, and if you do, you often have to walk a ways. So there's a parking ramp there, or there's a parking lot, or
There's a parking lot right along the building,
okay.
and then also right against that is Colf right there, and they also have a parking lot in the back if there is overflow.
Oh yeah, and theirs is a big parking lot.
Yep.
Yeah, that's huge. So Sage Hall is next to Colf.
Yes.
It is.
Perfect. There we go. There's a locator next to Colf Sports Center. Okay. And what are the hours?
From
The first class starts at 9.
9.
But we recommend people come by 8:30 to get registered and get
Okay.
settled.
All right.
And it goes, the last class session ends at 6, but then we have a final community wrap-up for people who can stay,
Okay.
which will probably last until 7 or so.
Last class at 6, and a wrap up at 7. Okay. And first class at 9, but they should be there for registration at 8:30. And I'll repeat this: there's no cost. That's why it's called a free school. They don't need to. Can they register in advance if they want to?
No, not this year.
Okay.
Maybe when we do it again, we'll do
Okay,
that.
all right.
We're doing a lot of guessing. We honestly don't know how many people are going to show up.
Okay.
I ordered lunch for 150.
Oh, so lunch is involved.
Lunch is included
served too.
For
and
well
it's not
for the
all-
first 150 people.
Okay.
If we have more than 150, we might not be able to feed them all.
We'll get Dr. Tom Hallquist to whip some things up quick on his solar oven.
There you go.
All the meals won't be cooked on solar ovens, though, right?
No, they will. They will not. Maybe someday, but that's not what we can pull off
Okay.
at this point.
All right. So how many people are involved in putting this all together? You've got, instructors like yourself. You've got students who are helping to put this together. You've got community members who are teaching. What kind of group do you have here? How many people?
It depends how you define it. There's a smaller group of just 4 of us, 3 students plus myself, who are really the energy behind this, who are putting it together.
Okay.
But then if you expand the circle beyond that, those are the main organizers. But beyond that, we have at least 20 volunteers who are going to show up and help the day run smoothly.
Okay.
We're offering between 30 and 40 classes, so that's a good many instructors.
It sure is.
And we're so grateful to these instructors. They are offering their classes for free. They're not getting paid at all. And many of them are even bringing their own materials. Like Cassandra's bringing her own mushrooms and growing medium. Like we're not giving her money to pay for those items. She's just donating them. So
You want some more?
Cheryl has more.
I don't
more
know if the
mushrooms
ones
for
in
you.
your lawn are edible.
Oh, probably not. That is a good group of people. It is.
It is. And we have some really hardworking staff members at the university who are also really helping us with logistics and with getting things ready for the grounds and for the building. And we've got some staff members who are working on the catering the lunch, and we're really grateful for their participation too.
Sure. What is the parking free also? Because
yes.
Okay.
Yes, we have been told that parking is free on Saturdays at the university, so it should be no problem for people to park on campus. We want to encourage people to take the bus to get there if possible. That's more environmentally friendly.
Of course.
To walk or ride a bike if that's possible. To carpool perhaps, but there should be plenty of free parking.
Okay. Now, is Dr. Hallquist's the only event that will be held outside, weather permitting, or will there be some others too?
Some of the other workshops involve going outside.
Okay.
One workshop that I think many of your viewers might be interested in is a tour of the green features on campus. It's either at 10 o'clock or 11, I don't remember. Okay. But Lisa Mick, who is one of the main groundkeepers on campus, she knows so much about all the green features on campus, and she's going to be leading a tour all around for one of these class periods.
Wow. So she's going to be covering a pretty large area of campus, I would think.
They might not make it to every corner of campus
Okay.
in that time. The biodigester across the river is kind of a hike. But I know that she'll be showing some of the gardening that she's been doing with her staff. They have a lot of native plants and other kind of wildlife gardens that she's very proud of. And of course, many of the buildings have green features, which we can discuss more if you
Sure.
want.
Yeah, we're going to, when we're finished with this, we're going to talk about a lot of sustainable issues and even talk a little bit about how you can just become a little bit more green in your home just by doing baby steps. You know, if you've never thought about being green, I mean, you don't have to go full bore right away and run out and buy a composter and all this. You can start out by doing very little things, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later on. Anything else that we have not covered about the free school that you guys think we should address? Or maybe something that we should emphasize again?
Well, we are providing free childcare.
Okay.
Yep. And some wonderful students have volunteered to help out from the child care center at the university.
Okay.
So they are trained and they have background checks, and they'll be in Sage. So people who want to bring their kids can and just drop them off in the room, come check on them, bring them to activities if they want, bring them to grow mushrooms with me.
Sure.
So.
Well, I thank you for telling me about that, because I think that's a good idea, because a lot of times people may, reluctantly say, I'm not going to go. I've got no one to watch little Johnny or Julie, And so here, there's childcare. There's also classes that the kids can actually be involved in. With yours, is there a certain age that they have to be, or?
No, they can come however old they want, and I'm going to have a helper in my room as well, so
Okay.
it won't be just me if there's a lot of kids.
Okay, all right. So free childcare, and they've all been trained and certified. So that's a really important aspect that folks might want to keep in mind. Okay, anything else?
Just that the big theme is accessibility. Like, that's why we're offering the childcare. The food is going to be catering to many different kinds of dietary needs. So we want to make it maximally accessible to as many people as possible, because we think that this kind of knowledge and this kind of information should be freely available to as many people as possible.
Sure.
We want to create a better community, and we think that if we get together and share the knowledge that we have, that's a really good step in the right direction.
Absolutely. So is the food all going to be, it's not going to all be like organic food and things like that, right? Or is it?
Well, we're working with the university catering services.
Okay.
They are the company called Sodexo, and they have some limitations on what they're able to do and some advantages to what they're able to do. So we're not able to do the completely local and organic, but we are able to do completely vegetarian, which has a good impact on the environment in certain ways because it uses fewer resources.
Sure.
And then we're also able to have the food served on plates and cups and silverware that is compostable. So we're going to be putting all of the food waste and the plates and everything into these compostable bags, and we're taking the bags to the biodigester where it's going to get digested up and turned into energy.
Another reason that you don't need to buy a composter. So see, okay, I think that sounds pretty cool. I do. I think that sounds really neat. So good. I think, and before we close out the hour, we're going to kind of rehash the times and the place and all that again. And just in case my crew didn't get the website address, I don't know if they did, but here it is again. It's uwosh.edu/go/Earth Week. And I'll try and remember to repeat that a couple more times before we're finished. So let's talk about some of the, you talked about the biodigester. I want to definitely hear about that. And I understand that you, Cassandra, have been doing a lot of interacting with people on campus about many of the campus's sustainable measures and initiatives that they've been taking. So let's talk about the biodigester first, because it just has a neat ring to it. It just sounds
really does.
tough and just really cool. So what does it do? We're going to, people who go are going to see their stuff all mashed up if they want to see that. But what does a biodigester do?
Well, what a biodigester does is we take organic waste such as yard clippings, food, paper waste even sometimes, and it goes to the biodigester, and it uses bacteria much like a water treatment plant, and it breaks it down naturally, and methane is released from these organic materials. And that methane is actually trapped and then burned for electricity.
Okay. You may not know the answer to this, but I believe that our county landfill burns, there's methane being burned.
Yes.
Do they have a biodigester there, do you know?
Nope, they just burn it off for safety measures so the gas doesn't build up.
Okay.
But the water treatment plant actually is piping their methane gas to the biodigester, since they're right next to each other.
Okay.
And actually it's burning their methane gas for further power.
Oh, how neat.
Yes,
Okay.
very cool.
Yeah. I do a lot of obscure reading all over the place. And one of the things, I'm trying to remember now what country I saw this in. It wasn't here. But there's a new law in this particular country where every home must be built with the roof either set for a rooftop garden. You're shaking your head.
It's France, I think.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
With a rooftop garden or
solar panels.
Yes. And I think that's a really neat thing. So solar panels or a rooftop garden. Are there any things like that on campus right now?
Well, we do have a couple green roofs on campus, one on Sage Hall actually, so people can see while they're there. And then there's another one on Horizon as well.
Horizon, not that it really matters to people, but I think that's that relatively new building as you're coming down Algoma, isn't it?
Yes, and it's apartment style dorm living.
Okay. Oh, it is dorms. Okay. I don't spend that much time on campus, so I just knew it was new. I saw it and I said, oh, that's cool. It kind of looks like a dorm, but Sage Hall. So is that where the word sage came from, sort of tied in with?
Yeah, Sage Hall, it's not named after a person. But if you look at the building, you'll see that there are these panels that are carved with two slogans on them, or mottos perhaps. The top one says, wisdom of nature, and the bottom one says, nature of wisdom. That we can learn wisdom from nature, and that we can learn about what is wisdom from nature. And of course the word sage, right, is a plant, but it also refers to wisdom. A sage person is a wise person.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I love about Sage Hall. Sage Hall also has rooftop solar panels as well. So I think it would hopefully pass the test in France.
Well, I just thought, when I saw that, I just thought, that's a pretty cool concept, And I think it's a shame that, I can't say that I'm the most green person in the world, but I try and do little things here and there, I'm trying, I'm making an effort. But I like hearing about things that other states or other countries are doing. And I just read that this past week, in fact, and I thought, that's really cool. But why is it always that other countries are so much more forward-thinking than we seem to be in this country? Have you noticed that?
It's complicated. I have noticed that. And I think, honestly, I think a big piece of it has to do with our American character of individualism. I think we tend to each look out for ourselves. And a lot of these environmental problems are collective problems that are best solved by people working together in communities. And in places like France, I don't know, I think their culture is more accustomed to working together, more accustomed to, I mean, what you're talking about is a government regulation, which places a burden on individuals and on their financial well-being. So you can see why a lot of Americans would say, hey, who are you to tell me I have to spend all this money on this thing I'm not even sure I like, right?
Well, but it's only if you're building something new.
Sure,
You
right?
know.
But still, I mean, can't you imagine many developers in this country saying, I have the right to develop any kind of building I want,
Yeah.
even if it kills the planet, right? Because we tend to be very individualistic. We think that our freedom is defined by not being connected to other people.
And we don't like being told what to do by the government. We want less government involvement in our lives far too often.
Yeah.
You know, and so, yeah, I can see where that, but you know, it is for the planet. It is for the earth. And speaking of that, I got to get your impressions. I'm sure that you heard Sarah Palin is making the news again this week. She's out on a book tour touting her latest book. And she was sort of talking down about this whole concept of global warming, essentially saying it doesn't exist. It's just a non-starter. There's nothing to it. And then she took off on Bill Nye the Science Guy. And did you hear it? Did you read this? Okay.
Not in great detail.
Well, try not to laugh too hard. You know, she would just be so much better off just keeping her mouth shut, because every time she opens it, and this is my opinion, every time she opens it, she looks like a bigger fool than what she really is, apparently. But she said, I am as much a scientist as Bill Nye the Science Guy, and he's just running around scaring our little children about this concept of global warming or something to that effect. But she clearly said that she is as much a scientist as he is. And the reality is, Bill Nye the Science Guy is in fact a scientist. You know, he designed something, I don't know if he used to work for Boeing or something, but he designed something that to this day is still on many Boeing jetliners. And so, I mean, every time she opens her mouth, it's something more ludicrous than the last. But so help people understand, if anyone out there is a Sarah Palin fan and believes in what she's saying, that global warming is it's just an attitude, it's just a mindset. There's nothing to it.
Well, part of what's going on here is that science seems like something to be afraid of, or something not to trust. And, you know, there are lots of reasons why somebody might feel that way, that science is something not to trust. You know, maybe you have had an experience where your doctor talked over you and didn't really understand your health issues, and therefore, you know, and that's one example of a scientist who doesn't get you. Or maybe when you had experiences in school, science was really hard, and therefore you sort of wanted to push away from it. I mean, there are lots of reasons why people mistrust scientists, and within the context of climate change, you know, scientists are taking on roles that they don't normally take on. Scientists don't normally stand in front of the public and say, oh, I have ideas about laws and policy. Right? They're supposed to be getting knowledge somewhere in their ivory towers, right? They're not supposed to be telling the government what to do. Yeah, or in their lab, right? So, I mean, you can see why. I think there are reasons for the discomfort with the role of science here. And so, I mean, a statement like Sarah Palin's, she's appealing to people who don't want to have to listen to Bill Nye, you know, who want to be able to undermine his credibility. Partly because there's just a mistrust of science. You see that with people who resist teaching evolution in schools. You see that with people who resist some certain like genetically modified foods. Like, all of these things are like scary and it seems like they're bad. That's all part of the same mindset. So, I mean, science education has a long way to go. You know, and I think science in general has a little bit of a PR problem in this country, you know, and maybe there are ways to work on that. When it comes to climate change and what we sometimes call climate denial, I wish I could deny it too. I don't want to believe in climate change. It's horrible. Are we really killing the planet? I don't want to believe, I mean, do you want to believe that, Cassandra?
Absolutely
No.
not.
Right? I want to believe that everything's fine. Everything's fine. So, I mean, I think that's also an emotional reaction that's very understandable. Some people say that denial is a stage of grief, and that, you know, it's a very valid and in some sense healthy reaction to really bad news.
Sure.
Now, one has to move beyond that, I think, and move toward something like acceptance and, you know, bargaining. I mean, some of us are in the bargaining stage. Earlier, Cassandra and I were talking about buying carbon credits, and you know how you can pay, basically you can pay higher electricity bills in order to have your money support green energy, even though technically you're still burning dirty energy where you live.
Yeah.
And you know, that's a laudable thing. It's something that our university is talking about doing more of, so that we can say that we have 100% renewable energy as our base. But it's also a form of bargaining, you know, where we say, if I just throw some money at it, will the problem go away, please?
Yeah, yeah.
Because we all have trouble. We all struggle with climate change.
Well, I think too, and you know, you guys are certainly more up on this stuff than I am, but it just seems to me that we don't really understand a lot about it in some cases, and as a result of that, rather than trying to learn and trying to figure it out, we'd rather just say, it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
It's really not happening. And I can remember when I was in high school, a long time ago, I can remember sitting there, and we were in the Civic Auditorium, which is part of Oshkosh West High School. It's now Alberta Kimball Civic Auditorium, I think. But at that time, it was just called the Civic Auditorium. And sitting in there, and they had the whole school, as I recall, in this auditorium, and we were watching a film of some sort on pollution. And, you know, they were saying that the world is going to be destroyed by pollution and things like that. And I just sat there, you know, because in 8th or 9th grade, 10th grade, whatever I was in, I of course knew everything, you know. And I just thought, no way, how can that happen? This planet is far too big. How can somebody throwing trash out there, not that I ever advocated throwing trash out the window, but I'm just thinking, how can that destroy the planet? Just pick it up and throw it in a trash bin, you know. But there's a whole lot more to it than all that. So even back in the 70s, I was saying, nah. I was Sarah Palin. I was way ahead of her, you know. Nah, there's nothing to this. But it is true, you know. And but I don't think, you know, like when we talk about, you talked about climate change, and we talk about global warming. Now, I don't know, so I'm going to ask, are they one and the same? Are those two phrases interchangeable, or are they two different things that we're talking about?
They're basically the same.
They are very similar.
Okay.
Climate change almost more refers to, you know, these extreme weather events and the shifting line of, I mean, things are warming up, but really they're shifting northward, and that's really more of what climate change ascertains to. So.
Well, you know, there has to be something to this concept of global warming and or climate change, because how else does one explain some of the weirdness that we've had just in the last couple of years? Let's just look at this year alone. I mean, my God, this is April, but in February already, we had really warm days where all the snow in just about all the areas of the city had melted. That's unheard of for Oshkosh.
Some people call it global weirding.
That's a good one.
And one of my friends said, you know, we don't have seasons anymore. It's just like that God's iPod is on shuffle.
Yeah.
Like, oh, what's it going to be?
That's a really good way
today.
of putting it, yeah.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you know, I grew up here, so I know that that's not common for Oshkosh, Wisconsin, to have all the snow be gone in February.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be great if it happened all the time, but it doesn't. It would be great if our winter would end in February. You know, I'm all for that. But there is this weirdness, as you say, and a shifting of temperatures and just precipitation in general, I think.
Something I want to touch on, though, you mentioned the video about pollution and how I suspect it was very doom and gloom, right? It was supposed to make you afraid for the future?
I don't remember Laura that much. I almost called you Dr. Laura, but no, that's another person.
But my point is that a lot of messaging about environmental issues is negative,
Well,
and
this had the old
it's supposed
clip.
to make you afraid.
Yeah, this had the old, and I'm sure it was. It had the old clip of, well, I'm dating myself now, but I'm sure you guys have seen it, with the Native American. And somebody, he's standing there, and somebody throws a bunch of trash out their car window onto the ground, and it kind of lands near his feet, and at the end you can see a tear rolling down. I don't know which side it is, but you can see a tear rolling down his face. And I mean, I think no matter when you see that, whether it's back in the 70s or you see it 50 years from now, that single tear is a very poignant picture of just how disrespectful people are to the earth. And you don't have to be a green person at all, but for God's sake, don't throw trash out the window and on the ground. And somebody said, well, it's biodegradable anyway, because I said something to somebody one time, we were having a conversation. Well, it's biodegradable, whatever we were talking about, somebody throwing out. It's still, you look trashy throwing things out of a window, So yeah, I'm sure it was meant to scare us, but scare us into doing the right thing.
Well, I bring that up partly because I feel like at UW-Oshkosh, students are aware of the negative in these issues. They're aware of why they should be afraid. They're aware of the feelings of guilt. I mean, I think that ad with the Indian is supposed to make us feel guilty, right? And sort of like ashamed. And that's fine too. But one thing that I love about teaching at UW-Oshkosh is that the emphasis isn't only on the fear and the shame and the guilt. The emphasis is also on solutions and on creativity and finding new ways of doing things, like Dr. Hallquist's solar ovens and like the biodigester, right? That students are able to see in the flesh, in concrete, all around them on this campus. They're able to see a different way of doing things. And I think that is very eloquent, and I think it teaches the students not to be afraid of these issues because it's going to make you feel bad, but to focus on these issues because it's a challenging problem for which there are solutions if we just work on it.
That's a really good point, Laura. It really is, and thank you for saying that, because again, I don't recall every aspect of this film, but I do remember that very, very clearly, and I remember my thinking, this can't possibly happen, and it wasn't some
we can't
smugness.
let it. We shouldn't let it happen.
I mean, it wasn't a smugness. I just thought, why are they trying to scare us? Like, I guess I did think it was about scare. Why are they trying to scare us like this? Because this planet is gargantuan. How can it possibly be destroyed by people littering? And that's kind of what I thought. But, we've done a lot more to the planet since then.
Cassandra, I was asking you earlier about what inspires you on campus, or what things like make you feel like there are solutions. Do you remember that?
Yes. Well, what I really love is as being a student at UWO is I really feel like the conversation is changing. We know the doom and gloom, and we know the scary aspect of it. But the real beauty of it, and I feel like the conversation is now, is that we are trying to inspire one another to come together. I mean, which is really the idea behind this free school, is let's come together. Let's talk about solutions. We know these issues. Now, how can we work together and join together as a community and really focus on what needs to be done and what we can do? And it's really just, it's beautiful and inspiring to see these students and community members work together and get involved, where prior a lot of times it was, community, and then there's the campus. And now we're really trying to mend that bridge, just like we're trying to mend the bridge of climate change and get people to not think just by themselves, but we are all one together on this planet, and we are going to find the solution. I do believe in that, but...
Well, and after all, we only have one Earth.
Exactly.
We each may be individual on this planet, but we only have one Earth. And so you're right, you're both right. It is up to each of us to do what we can in our own little way, but also to try and see a little bit beyond just our own property lines and look at, what's beyond that.
Yeah, and work with our neighbors to fix the problems that we see.
That's true. Yeah. I just had a thought, and it just, this is happening more and more as I get older. But my doctor says nothing to worry about. So, but it will come back to me. So on Saturday, are there, your event obviously is for the children, and I think that's good that they're learning things at a very early age. Are there other things that kids can be involved in that will help them learn about the environment and how to be more green?
Well, I believe the potted plants class, that is also geared towards children.
Okay.
And Jen Sadler's, is that her name, who's running it? She is actually a member of Growing Oshkosh, and she travels around to a lot of the schools in the area and works with the kids at the school as well. So,
what's the name of the group? Growing Oshkosh?
Yep, Growing Oshkosh. And they actually
They're wonderful. You should have them on this show.
That's
You
what
should.
I'm writing
They
her
are
name down right
wonderful.
now. Do you know how to reach her? You can get that to me? Okay. Okay, go ahead.
Well, yeah, so she works with a lot of the kids in the public schools to teach them how to grow plants and growing community gardens at the schools and really connecting kids with where their food comes from and just connecting them again with nature and seeing that connection from an early age.
Well, and I reverted back to the free school and the kids because, I'm talking about my high school days and films that we were being shown then already. And, a lot of older people are pretty old school and they're set in their ways. And they may not want to change because, after all, they're not going to be here for much longer. Or, and I don't mean it like that, but that may be their mindset. What do I care? I probably only have 10, 12 more years. What do I care? Or it just may be, you know what? I'm an old person. This is how I've done things all my life. I don't want to learn something new, Or it just may be too difficult for them to learn something new. And so starting with the younger kids, that's why I reverted back to that, because that's, like with anything, that's where we've got to get them. We've got to get them when they're young. Probably should have started younger with people like me, or I wouldn't have sat there in high school saying, not going to happen. But so if people are wanting to, well, let's finish up on initiatives at the campus first. Besides this great biodigester, what else is the University of Wisconsin-Oshkosh doing as a campus to be more green, to be more sustainable?
Well, they also have the solar thermal and solar photovoltaic panels all across campus.
What was the second one you said?
Solar voltaic, sorry.
Solar voltaic?
Yep, that just
What
means
is that?
solar thermal, it's used directly to heat water that's actually going through pipes located underneath the panels.
Right.
And then solar UV or photovoltaic, that's actually creating electricity, which is being used to power the building. So Sage Building actually has both of those types of panels on top of it.
Wow.
Yep.
So the university is not 100% self-sufficient when it comes to energy.
No.
About what percentage would you say they are?
Well, the biodigester creates about 50%, I believe, right now.
Wow.
Yep. But that's actually sold back into the grid, so back to Wisconsin Public Service.
Okay. But they're making money off that.
Yes, exactly.
So that's a good thing.
To make further investments in renewable energy.
Sure,
hopefully.
sure.
Yes.
Yeah, it's all recyclable.
Yes.
You got it.
Instead of cyclical, it's all recyclable.
Yeah.
So upwards of 50%.
Yeah.
Totally sustainable.
Yeah, and I mean, a large part of this also is about smart building design like Sage, so utilizing the light to not have to use as much electricity and shading things correctly so you don't have to turn on the heat or electricity. And
Sage
cool
has
the
these
building.
automatic shades in some of the hallways and in some of the rooms. Depending on the day and how much light is coming in, you can just be standing there and the shade goes bzzz, and it goes up or down.
So it's got sensors on it?
Yeah, so that it
That's
doesn't
pretty
heat up the
interesting.
building, or does heat up the building a
Yeah.
little more.
I'm assuming the building is LEED certified then too?
Yes, absolutely.
LEED gold, right?
Yep, LEED gold.
LEED gold.
Yeah.
Wow.
There are different
You can't
gradations.
get it,
Yes.
but yeah, I've done some articles professionally on LEED certification and green buildings and that kind of thing. LEED gold is as good as you can get.
There's platinum.
Yes, there is platinum.
Yeah,
We
but,
didn't quite get that.
yeah, but there's not a whole lot of people probably going platinum.
No.
I think there's very few buildings alone in the United States that are.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe in France.
Right?
Maybe in
Maybe
France.
so.
Anything else that the campus is doing? Because I think that's tremendous just in and of itself.
Yeah. Well, we also have a lot of landscaping techniques to try to mitigate any toxins or pollutants coming off of, because we do have a lot of parking lots.
Sure.
So Sage also has a lot of things called bioswales, and you can see them around the building, and they're kind of like divots in right around
Okay.
the building, and they're filled with native plants. So when the parking lots drain off, the water is actually diverted into these bioswales, and the pollutants and toxins are just naturally filtered out through the plants. So there's no energy expenditure there, and it makes the water safer for going back into the river.
Wow. If you guys were paying property taxes, and I don't
No, we don't.
No,
We're
I
tax
was going to
exempt.
say, yeah, you don't. But if you did, that would get you a nice credit on your
Oh, we would hope so.
on your water bill, because that's tremendous. I mean, you know, we don't want water runoff going into our streams and
Absolutely not.
our
We want to
drinking
utilize
water
that
and-
resource
and that
and-
kind of thing. And you know, that reminds me, I don't know where this was either, and I didn't read it. I just heard someone talking about it. But there is a place somewhere here in this country, some state, that has made it. They've totally gone the other way, and they've said we're outlawing rain barrels. So they're not allowing citizens to have rain barrels anymore to collect rainwater.
Is that California? No. Texas?
I don't-
It's some dry state, right?
I don't
Where they
recall.
have a
I
lot of
didn't.
droughts.
It's not something I saw. It's just something I heard about. But I just thought, you know, that is just kind of going backwards. I mean, there are houses I know where you can't necessarily have rain barrels per se because you don't have eaves and downspouts. Although there might be a way to collect it, I don't know what that would be because it just kind of runs off wherever. But, you know, I see some neighbors with some rain barrels, and I just think, I smile every time I drive by because I just think that's really cool, you know. And it's just a little thing. It's just a little thing, but it's making such a tremendous difference, you know. Do you have downspouts and eaves on your house?
We do. Yeah.
See, we don't. We do on our house, but not on our garage.
Oh.
So I don't know where we would put rain barrels, and they're toward the front. I don't know where we'd put rain barrels where the city wouldn't give us a hassle about that because they'd be sitting in the front yard, basically.
There is a rain barrel making workshop coming up.
Really?
I believe it's April 30th.
Okay.
Did you see the announcement about that?
I did.
I'm trying to remember. I believe it's Winnebago County Extension
Okay.
who might be offering it. So we don't have rain barrels at my house yet. We've recently moved in, but we're going to get them soon.
Well, that's good to know that there's this thing coming up. I'll look into that too, because you know they are a neat idea, and I mean we get rain so frequently in the summer around here, in the spring too, and it would be nice to just be able to capture some of that and reuse it instead of always running the garden hose to water the garden or to water the lawn if you've got really, really hot days. And I just, so like I said, I smile every time I see their rain barrels, but you don't see a whole lot around.
Well, another way to capture the rain, like Cassandra was mentioning, is planting native plants, especially these plants that have really deep root systems. They can suck it all in, you know, and they'll use it right away. Like
Yeah.
it's not something you could use for your own purposes out of a barrel, but it's being used. It's being put to good use if you plant the right plants that will really absorb that water.
And really hold it in the soil as well.
Sure. Yeah. Would you have to, well, now we're getting off in a whole other thing, but I'm just thinking if you'd have to plant them, you'd probably have to plant them around your entire home.
Wherever your water goes.
Yeah. If you don't have downspouts around your entire home.
Yep.
So, okay. Anything else that you guys can think of? I know we've talked a lot about the free school. We've talked about, you know, the initiatives that the university is doing, and we're almost out of time, and I want to have a little bit of time to, you know, just share some ideas with viewers on things that they can do, even if it's just small stuff that they can do around their house to become more green. So is there anything about the other two things that we haven't covered before we move on to green tips?
None that I can think of at the moment.
Okay, then let's talk about how someone can be more green. Little things, right? Like light bulbs. I mean, that can make it, and you're saving money on your electrical bill too, because it's using, I just was writing about this, you'd think I could remember it. The newer light bulbs last, I believe it said, 8 times longer than the incandescent bulbs, and I think you save 50% of the cost on your electrical bill. Does that sound right?
That sounds right, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're a lot more efficient.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I mean-
and it's not just light bulbs. Lots and lots of appliances
Sure.
have made great strides in efficiency.
Yeah.
And so I think for any homeowner or somebody who's looking to green their lifestyle, if there is an appliance purchase in your future, research, figure out what's
Yeah.
the most energy efficient way.
Energy Star appliances all have the Energy Star seal on them. I just brought up the light bulbs because I thought that was amazing. You know, you talk about small things, something that lasts 8 times as long and can save you up to or as much as 50% on your bill. You know, as far as that cost goes, I mean, you're not going to cut your whole bill in half just if you only do the light bulbs, but I think that's tremendous, and it is just a tiny little thing. And I know when energy efficient bulbs first came out, they were, you know, they weren't priced out of this world, but there definitely was a price difference that was noticeable between regular light bulbs and the energy efficient ones. I think they've kind of evened out a little bit now. And the LED light bulbs, you know, they're still going to be a little bit more, but if you can save that kind of money, why not do it? What else can people do around the house to become a little bit more green and yet not turn their whole life and their lifestyle upside down?
Well, there are low flow water shower heads, toilets, faucets. Now those are a little pricier, but people are thinking about renovating or they just need something new in there. They should just think about getting one of the low flow ones, save on water.
Okay.
One of my favorite dimensions is to think about food. I recently read that the average American home ends up wasting 25% of what they buy at the grocery store. It goes bad in the fridge, or you put it on your plate but don't eat it and then throw away the rest of it. So food is produced at a cost to the environment. Whatever the food is, there's some kind of cost to the environment through the way it was grown. Maybe there's erosion at the farm, maybe there's pesticides, something. There's going to be some cost there. There's cost to the environment in terms of packaging and processing the food, and in terms of shipping it. The average food on an American's plate has traveled 1,500 miles. That's a long way, people. That's a long way.
That is a long way.
Okay, so anyway, so there's definitely environmental cost to your food, but even just without changing your diet at all, although that's a good thing to do too, but even without that, just cutting down on food waste is huge. If we, instead of wasting 25% of our food, what if we wasted only 5% of our food? That would be better for our pocketbooks in terms of how much money we're spending on food, because that's a waste of money, and it's better on the environment because we're using that costly process more efficiently.
Sure. And, you know, I mean, if people out there have a dishwasher or, I mean, I don't, but there are many people who do, and, you know, they come from this old school where you can't have any dirty dishes sitting in the sink. Well, that's fine. Put them in the dishwasher, but that doesn't mean you have to run the dishwasher for a quarter of a load or a half a load or whatever.
Sure.
You know, it's going to save energy. It's going to save on your pocketbook in the long run. And the same with the washing machine. You know, if you've only got half a load, why are you doing a load of laundry? You know. Now I know that you can just put it on the low feature and only use that much water, but still it's costing the same from an electrical standpoint or a gas standpoint to run a half a load as it is a full load. So little things like that too. I'm trying to think of some other ones right offhand.
Another big one for me is transportation.
Okay.
That we sometimes don't even think that there might be an alternative to driving the car sometimes. Oshkosh is not a huge city. A lot of our trips are under 2 miles. Oshkosh is a very flat city, which means that it's quite easy to bike because there's not hills to deal with. For many of these errands, in fact, we could even walk. It doesn't take that long. You can walk 1.5 miles in half an hour. That's good exercise, and you've gotten yourself to the store. Now, I know people say, well, I need a car because I have a big load of groceries. There are options for that. You can have a cart on wheels. I know people look at me when I do that. They say, you look like a bag lady. You look like a homeless lady. And I say, no, I look like an urbanite, because that's what they do in New York City, right? That's what they do in many places. There's no shame in pulling your groceries home in a little red wagon or whatever you got. So there are, I think it's important for people to realize that when it comes to transportation, we have alternatives, and that whatever we can do that's active for our bodies gives us that healthy bonus in addition.
Okay, good. You know, whatever I was going to say earlier still hasn't come back to me, so I'm just going to forget it. I'll remember it as soon as this camera stops rolling. But I want to thank you guys very much for being here. We're down to like about 2.5 minutes, and it's been a fascinating hour just hearing about the different things that the campus is doing, first of all, and that's been something that's been in the works for a number of years. You know, it's not like they just decided this past year to do this, but they've been very forward thinking and very green thinking, and it's been very methodical over the last number of years. And this free school thing, you know, I don't know that I'm going to be able to get there because I do have some other functions on Saturday, but I think it sounds like a tremendous thing. I really do. And so I want to repeat for folks again, it's a free school that's sustainability themed. It is this Saturday from 9 a.m. until the last class is at 6 p.m., so it's a full 9 hours. However, you should register at 8:30 in the morning, and there is a wrap-up session starting at 8 p.m. at night. You don't have to stay all day. You don't have to be there right at the crack of dawn, but the classes are going to run about an hour in length, so you can jump in at any point, but this is definitely something to take in, and it's educational, and it's all free. You can go to uwosh.edu/go/Earth Week, and there it is up on the screen. To find out more information about it, you can also search for them on Facebook. And tell me again, Laura, what it is on Facebook?
It's facebook.com/UWO Free School.
Okay.
All one word.
All right. And, you know, that's only if you're watching this between now and Saturday the 23rd of April. After that, you can still check it out, but you won't be able to attend.
We're going to do another one next year.
Yes, so keep in mind. And if they are, say they have some idea that they want to teach a course next year or something,
Yes.
do they contact you?
Yes,
How do they
please.
reach out to you?
If you can look for my name on the UW-Oshkosh website, you'll find my email address.
Okay, it's Dr. Laura Hartman. And so that's it. Enjoy the free school, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it goes. All right.
Thanks, Cheryl.
And we're going to have you back on again at some point.
That would be great.
All right. So very good. Thanks to both of you for being here. Thanks to my crew. They're wonderful as always. And most of all, thanks to you folks at home or on the internet watching, wherever you might be watching. We will see you next time. Until then, take care. Keep your eye on us. We've got our eye on Oshkosh.